I love hand quilting, but the sort of hand quilting that I usually do is big stitch hand quilting that echoes the shapes in the quilt that I'm making. I love doing it because it is so relaxing and calming, and I love the overall effect. I hand quilted this quilt entirely, and I love the squishy nature that you get with it. Every time I see vintage quilts at Festival of Quilts or other exhibitions, I'm always drawn to the pieces that are densely hand quilted, and I love how decorative this can look, even on things like this dressing gown, and it's something that I really want to try. I've been following Deb Maguire online for quite a long time now, and she does a lot of hand quilting in a frame. Her work is phenomenal, and I really want to give that a go, but I had a lot of trouble trying to find a frame that I could use. I was searching eBay and other places for a really long time. But then I found out about an initiative which Deb Maguire has set up in conjunction with Dr. Jess Bailey called Within the Frame. They've done a lot of research all about how endangered hand quilting in a frame using the rocking stitch is in the UK, and they've managed to get it to be on the UNESCO Endangered Crafts list, which is really important because it will help to keep the work going to sustain it as a craft. And they've been working with an amazing furniture maker called James Torble, who has made some hand quilting hake frames and has them for sale, and so I was able to buy one, and that's what this video is about. I'm going to show you me setting it up, troubleshooting and working my way through my first ever piece of hand quilting using a frame. So I purchased my frame at the very beginning of this year, and it isn't until now that I've been able to get around to use it. I bought it myself, so this is not sponsored in any way, but I will leave all of the details to all of the information for the frames and everything I've mentioned in the description box below. That's the book I'm using for reference, and I have to say that the workmanship on this frame is exceptional. I bought the lap size frame with wooden pegs, and it's just so beautifully made. Everything about it just feels lovely because it's handmade and really high quality, and this is something I'm going to have for the rest of my life, so it's lovely to have it and to treasure it. It feels so tactile, it's beautifully made. I can't speak highly enough of it. James is incredible. I would have loved to have bought the trestle legs, but that's not something that was within my budget, so I'm going to make it work with what I've got, and you'll see how I end up balancing it. But first of all, I had to figure out how to put it together. So the long parts with the holes in are called swords, and the longer parts with the webbing attached to it are called rails, and that's what you attach your quilt to. And the pegs just hold everything in place, although it can sort of slide around a little bit. So I played around with the position of the pegs until I was happy with where they were, and I moved them a few times during this process. But that's it set up, and there's James's details, but I'll leave everything in the description box below. So now it was time to think about what pattern to choose. So I actually chose this pattern, which is the Durham whole cloth cushion pattern, and I got this from the Quilters Guild from their web shop. And I thought this would be a great place to start because it is small, it's just a cushion. As I've never done this before, I didn't want to take on a full quilt. That's something I'll do in the future. And the pattern has detailed instructions and everything that you need to get started. It's ideal for beginners, so the perfect project really. So first thing I had to do was decide on my thread, and I'm using this Gutterman hand quilting thread. It's a wax coated thread and it proves to be really, really good, absolutely perfect for this job. I have a few colours of it, so I need to decide which colour to use depending on which fabric that I'm going to choose. So I decided that I would use a solid coloured fabric rather than anything patterned because I really want the detail of the hand quilting to show up. and I just thought this pink was perfect. And as it's going to be a cushion, I also want to choose a nice coordinating backing fabric, so I'll go for something patterned for that. So I had a little look through my Liberty collection. I think that one is just too much of the same pink, but I really like this one. It will go with my sitting room, which is where I'm going to put this cushion. So that's all decided then. So I cut 2 pieces of the solid pink and a piece of wadding to go in between, and that will be my quilt sandwich, and then the Liberty will be the backing part of the cushion, and I'll make an envelope back for that. So now it was time to trace the design onto the fabric. So luckily I have this light box, which I just find to be invaluable for things like this. And as it is a cushion, it's much easier to trace because you're only tracing onto a small piece of fabric. So I stuck a quarter of the design onto the light box and then found my center point of my fabric, taped that in place as well, and then I'm just using a heat erasable pen to mark the lines. You can use whatever you like for this, but I really find this to be a great method because it erases really nicely with heat afterwards. So that is just a quarter of the design done. It took a while, but I think it looks quite good. Any little mistakes like here, I know which line I need to follow and which one is a mistake, and that will just disappear when some heat is applied, like from a hairdryer. So they don't need to be super perfect because they will all disappear. So now I just need to repeat that 3 more times. So there's the first half of it done, and I definitely realised that tracing the design is going to be key to the success of this. I think the accuracy with tracing it is really important. So I've got the 2 halves of the design stuck down on my light box, so I'm just going to untape the fabric, turn it around and repeat this on the other half of the fabric. So there is the whole design now fully transferred. I did make a bit of a mess here, but like I said before, it'll be absolutely fine. So it's time to call it a day for now. I'm going to go home with some light reading and then come back tomorrow, load up the frame and get started. So my first task is to get my quilt sandwich attached to the frame. So there are a few different ways that you can do this, but I decided to use some basting stitches first of all. So I'm just positioning my fabric where I want it to be and making sure there is enough fabric on the webbing that is on the frame so that I can just tack it in place with some basting stitches. I'm actually just using the hand quilting thread that I've got because I'm sure that will be absolutely fine. It's just what I had to hand, but you can just use any old thread really to baste your quilt sandwich, and I'm just doing it a layer at a time because I was a bit concerned about going through all the layers, and actually it was really hard to go through the webbing, really hard on the hands. So you'll see later on that I end up just using some pins for this because I really did find it difficult to stitch through the webbing. So here's what the basting stitches look like. I like the basting, it's good, it's just really tough on the hands. So then I've just pinned the other side and seems to do the trick. So now what I need to do is put the wadding layer on top, put the design layer on top of that, and then really pin or even add some more basting stitches to hold all of the layers together before starting. So you can see the precarious position I ended up in to finish basting the piece to the frame. And the table was really handy because instead of breaking my back with it balanced like this, I could just raise up the table to exactly where I wanted it to be, so I wasn't breaking my back. So that was really, really handy. So thoughts on what I've done then. I've made a rookie mistake. I used the dimensions in the pattern, which I don't think has allowed me enough excess at the edge for quilting in a frame, because the pattern isn't written for a frame. So I probably should have allowed another inch or so. So it will be fine. I just need to be careful that when I'm right at the edge of the design, I'm definitely not stitching through the webbing, which would be really tough, I'd notice. So it will be fine. And these magic pins are not the pins for this job. They're fine for the sides where we're just going through 2 layers of fabric and wadding, but for where we're going through the webbing, they definitely bent, so I wouldn't recommend them for this job. They're just not the right pins for this job, and they don't claim to be either. The normal basting pins, like safety pins that are bent, would be better, but I don't seem to be able to find mine, so we use what we've got. So it's not perfect, it's just a learning curve, but I think I am ready to get started now. So this is my setup. I've got it resting on 2 tables, and again, height adjustable table made this really handy because I can just have it exactly the same height as that table, so we're all good there. Do wish I had put the piece in the middle of the frame rather just at one edge. Don't know what I was thinking there either. This is definitely a learning curve. Learn from my mistakes if you're going to try this too. But we're ready, so we need to start at the center of the work. So I'm going to start quilting this motif and see how we get along. So the thread I'm using is the Gutermann hand quilting thread in this dark pink colour, so it gives a really nice contrast. And my silver thimble is going to be essential for this because I'm going to really try hard to do the rocking stitch, and you need a nice thimble to push the needle. I'm using a quilting needle. I'm not sure which size, but it's one of those out of this tube, which is an assortment of sizes. They are quite short, but they are extremely fine and sharp. Perfect for this job. Right, so before I can even really show you what I'm doing, I've run into some challenges, let's just say. So I've done a line of stitching. I was struggling to reach the center, so I thought I'll just start with the straight lines because they're obviously going to be so much easier than the curved ones anyway. But I've parked my needle there because I've realized that I need to shorten this distance between the bars here and roll up the work. Even though the piece is only small itself, I've just assumed I'd be able to reach, but it's too uncomfortable. I can't really reach it. So this leaves me in a quandary, really. So I don't know how to roll it up. I don't know what to attach it here with. I'm thinking bulldog clips because I saw them on, I think, Deb McGuire's blog, that she'd used bulldog clips to hold it here, but I don't want to damage the wood. So if they're metal, I don't want it to scrape into the wood. But I can't think of anything else really. I don't have any bulldog clips, so I'm going to have to nip to the shops and see if I can find them. Big ones, some sort of clamp. I need some sort of clamp. Maybe my dad would have one, like a DIY type clamp. I don't know. So I'm gonna have to stop here and find a solution. Dad to the rescue. He had these small clamps and these bigger ones, so that should be ideal. So they were perfect for the job. I used a clamp on each side, each corner, and that meant I could roll up the work and keep it nice and taut, and not a big gap in the frame there, just a small enough one, but ideal for me to be able to reach. So really good. Definitely should have thought about needing something like that beforehand, but I'm just learning as I go along with this really, because it is completely new to me. So what I'm learning to do is, when I come to places like this, carry the thread a little bit and then carry on the design where I can, and that means sometimes leaving the threads like I have over here, but I can come back to those threads and either carry on with them or fasten them off. But yeah, there's a lot to think about, trying to keep the stitches consistent, which I'm not doing at the moment, but hopefully as I carry on I'll get there. And then thinking about which way to go in the design, because I'm finding it fine to stitch away from myself with the straight lines, but stitching back on myself is really hard. So I almost want to get up and go and sit around the other side, which I might do. But that's what it's looking like for now. So a bit of time has passed now and the piece is all finished. It took me about 8 hours to complete the hand quilting, and now I need to remove the heat erasable lines that are on it. Oliso Irons very kindly gifted me this M3 project iron, which will just be perfect for the job. It's a really lovely iron. It's really well made. It has a light on it, which is just brilliant for seeing what you're doing. So thank you so much to Oliso Irons for sending that to me. And yeah, it's really exciting to remove the heat erasable lines and to see what the finished piece is going to look like. I'm relatively happy with my hand stitching stitches. They're not as small as I'd like them to be. I ended up doing something closer to big stitch hand quilting really, because that's just the muscle memory that I've got. And so next time I tackle something like this, I'm going to try and go even smaller. I think the overall piece would look better with smaller stitches, but it is what it is. It gives a really nice squishy texture, which is just what I love about hand quilting. But yes, definitely smaller stitches next time. But the design is really pretty. I highly recommend this pattern. As I said before, I'll leave all the links in the description box below, so you can go and check that out yourself. And it supports the Quilters Guild, which is fantastic. But now all that's left to do is to make it into a cushion, and then it will be done. And here it is, the finished cushion. This is just such a lovely project, really enjoyable to make, and it was really nice to work within a frame. I did find it challenging going around some of the curved shapes, but I did find that I moved to the other side of the frame to really help myself with that, and I really enjoyed it. It's really nice doing something traditional, really feel like you're doing an historic sewing technique when you do this. That's how I felt anyway. And I think it's important to really raise awareness of some crafts becoming endangered, and we want to keep them going. I haven't mastered the rocking stitch perfectly yet. I haven't mastered the tiny stitches, but I'm really inspired to keep going with this because the overall effect when it's done is just really nice. And I think cushions are a great beginner project. So if you've never tried this before, then yeah, I highly recommend it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you really soon with the next video. Take care, bye bye.